Is she ignoring you? Keep the power. Today, you'll learn how to apply Machiavelli's principles to respond with strategic indifference, regain your center, and raise your value. Stay until the end for a clear, usable guide. When a woman decides to ignore you, most men's instinct is to chase her. That reaction is precisely what destroys your position, because it turns you into someone who gives away his power. What Machiavelli understood clearly is that attention is a strategic resource, and whoever administers it coldly always maintains control. This is not about begging or falling into emotional games, but about sustaining a calculated indifference that reverses the dynamic. Silence is never accidental. It can be a gesture to test your resilience, a pause for personal reasons, or a definitive sign of rejection. What matters is not obsessively deciphering each case, but understanding that, in the end, they all reveal the same thing: the need to see whether you will collapse under pressure or maintain firmness. When she withdraws, what she is really testing is not your attractiveness, but your emotional strength. The common mistake is panicking in the face of that withdrawal. Most respond with insistent messages, displays of anxiety, or attempts to recover attention at any cost. At that point, you are no longer the owner of your narrative, because you have accepted that your value depends on her recognition. That surrender is the real failure. True power lies not in convincing someone to stay, but in showing that your life remains intact, with or without her presence. Calculated indifference is not passivity. It is strategy. It means mirroring her energy without giving up a millimeter of your balance. If she takes hours to reply, you reply at the same pace. If she cancels plans, you replace them without drama. If she shows coldness, you remain calm without seeking closeness. This principle works because it cuts emotional manipulation at the root. There is no game possible when the other refuses to play. The crucial difference lies in what you do while applying this mirror. It does not mean standing still, waiting for her to return, but using every second to strengthen yourself. Machiavelli insisted that it is not enough to resist the adversary. True victory is to expand while the other wears down. If she disappears, your time is not wasted on lamentation. It is invested in building discipline, advancing in your work, strengthening your body, and enriching your social circle. Each day she expects to see you fall into desperation actually adds to your growth. Each hour she bets on your weakness becomes an hour that reinforces your value. What seemed like punishment transforms into an opportunity to show that your inner axis does not move at others' whims. Identifying the type of silence prevents impulsive decisions. There are scenarios with clear patterns. Testing silence. She watches your stories, maintains minimal gestures of interest, and delays replies to measure your reaction. Processing silence. She withdraws from everything, cuts activity, and needs space for personal matters. Rejection silence. Short replies, chain excuses, and steady coldness. The strategy is the same for all three. Preserve your standards, moderate contact, and sustain calm. Coherence is worth more than any explanation. The mirror rule maintains your position without theatrics. If she delays, you delay. If she cancels, you reorganize your agenda and move on. If she cools off, you remain polite and distant. This behavior communicates control, maturity, and focus. Anxiety decreases because you stop pouring energy into a field that returns no value. That energy returns to where it matters: work, study, projects, physical health, real bonds, productivity without servitude to performance, freedom without emotional dependence. Philosophy applied to daily life, far from the system's noise and its logic of control. During this period, you raise your value in concrete ways. Gym for discipline and consistency, reading for judgment, new skills to expand possibilities, a career aligned with measurable goals, a solid social network without overacting, less screen time, more presence, defined rest schedules, clear nutrition, weekends with loyal friends. None of this is a setup to provoke jealousy. It is the foundation of a life that does not revolve around external validation. The result is visible: stable calm, ordered mind, firm decision-making, When progress becomes visible, the dynamic changes. Silence loses effectiveness because it no longer produces dominant uncertainty. A simple calculation of potential loss is activated. She sees that you did not stop. You improved condition, income, projects, and circle. The narrative stops being about waiting for approval and becomes self-strengthening. This is not acting. It is coherence, emotional control, economy of attention, and firm boundaries. Less impulsive consumption, more meaning, less reactivity, more direction. Then comes the return, a brief greeting, or a justification. The real test begins there. Maintain exactly the priorities you consolidated. Replies at the same pace. Intact routines. Plans that are not canceled for improvisations. Clear communication, without irony or reproach, but also without concessions. Self-respect is sustained through actions, not promises. Here it is useful to remember, Georges Bataille, personal sovereignty is born when you decide how to use your time and energy without submitting them to the whim of others' gaze. There is a limit case that requires another measure. Repeated intermittent silence, crumbs of attention, calculated disappearances, triangulation with friends, and constant exhibition on social media while your messages are ignored. If this pattern persists for weeks, apply total withdrawal. Cut contact, close access, protect your mental health. You recover time, order, productivity, and freedom. It is not punishment. It is psychological hygiene and care for your vital project. Total withdrawal is executed with precision. Removing contacts from social media, absolute silence in messaging, zero inquiries through mutual friends, distance from places where she usually appears, end exposure to stimuli that restart the anxiety cycle, order in the agenda, regulated sleep, prioritize work, productivity organized in blocks, consistent training, daily reading, progress tracking. This decision does not seek reaction. It protects mental health and restores your capacity to choose. Power stops depending on external desire and returns to your field of action. The mind responds to coherence. Less screen time and more presence reduce restlessness. Rumination decreases and clarity rises. The notion of freedom is reinstated. You no longer exist as an appendix of an emotional game. You exist as a subject with direction. Machiavelli insisted on maintaining the position gained. Here, that position is your center. It is not negotiated. It is not rented for periods of approval. It is sustained through habits and visible limits. If an attempt at re-entry appears, the bar does not drop. Facts and consistency over time are evaluated. Communication remains simple, respectful, and concrete. No reproaches, no dramatization, no impulsivity. The priority remains your vital project, well-executed work, loyal friendships, a healthy body, finances in order. The bond only occupies space when it demonstrably adds value and does not extract energy. Within that framework, mutual interest can grow. Without it, the door remains closed. Georges Bataille contributes a key idea to this process: sovereignty as ownership of time and expenditure of energy. Daily life becomes the territory where that sovereignty is tested. You decide what you consume, who you relate to, which conversations you maintain, which activities you cut. Philosophy applied without solemnity. A clear system of priorities. Emotional control without rigidity. Firm boundaries without violence. The goal is not to punish or humiliate. The goal is to refine. Whoever operates through manipulation is excluded by simple incompatibility with your internal order. Whoever values communication and respect finds a safe space. This filter installs itself without unnecessary explanations. It communicates through presence, posture, and congruence. Day by day, week by week. The reward becomes evident. Less anxiety, more focus. Relationships with real emotional density and reciprocity. Projects that advance, a body that responds, a mind that rests. The narrative no longer revolves around being chosen, it revolves around building. That stability generates attraction effortlessly. It is not about being unreachable. It is about being a person with a full life, a solid identity, and non-negotiable standards. That is the mature exit from the silence dynamic. Attention as a finite resource, selected energy, productivity without sacrificing the soul, freedom as daily practice, philosophy-made behavior, a man who does not chase because he walks in his own direction, a man hard to ignore because his entire life sustains his value. If this helps you, apply it to your life. Calm power, firm limits, focus on the essential. Subscribe, like, and activate the bell. Watch our other videos and share. Comment on what moved you and what you will apply today. Your voice drives us.